Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV with your host, Kyle Ellicott. We're here to talk about our favorite subject, blockchain. Yes, but we're going to go a level deeper as we continue to do so here on VCTV. Today, we're going to be talking about tokenization. And while the title says equity tokenization, I want to talk about everything tokenization, taking the ones physical, bringing it digital, creating marketplaces through that process of tokenization. And yes, we're going to talk about equities and how that plays into it, whether it's your startup, it's your business, whatever it may be. But more so, what does the future of tokenization look like for all of us and everything we do and our future in front of us? And I'm joined by an outstanding panel of co-hosts and friends from around the world who invest and who build and are experts in this particular category. So we're going to dive deeper and introduce each and every one of them. But before we do, a big thank you to the LaToken team, to Maria and Hasmik for making today's episode possible. If you haven't done so already, check out the VCTV family, including all speakers on LaToken.com anytime. And also make sure to click that subscribe button down in the bottom corner, whichever direction it may be on today's camera. With that being said, let's go ahead and start doing introductions. Frederico, it has been a while, my friend, and you're joining us from South America. It'd be great for you to kick us off today. Oh, Frederico, you're on mute. No worries.
That's what happened. That's what happens when you spend a couple of months without coming to your presence. So it's always a pleasure to be here. Almost free to be traveling again. And I'm Frederico from Brazil. I run a fund investment company, actually. We do only blockchain related stuff, but not only as a fund, but also in investing, financing. So we have been advocating for this tokenization since the first time we talked a long time ago, right, guys? So that's always a nice subject for me. It's always a pleasure.
Wonderful. Absolute pleasure to have you here today. Julio, welcome back. Great seeing you again from yesterday. Joining us from New York. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Hi, everybody. New York Bay Capital is a financial advisor based in New York, but with presence throughout Latin America. Not as much Brazil, so I'm glad to have our colleague on the call, but we do cover everything everything else, like the Spanish-speaking side of Latin America, mostly from Buenos Aires, Santiago, all the way up, Peru, Ecuador, Panama, Central America, even Canada. We have a presence in Toronto. And of course, here in New York and Mexico. Mexico is our some of our bread and butter. We combine the efforts of a financial advisor with a fund that can invest in small companies. And of course, blockchain, fintech, tokenization are things that we are interested in investing. We're also interested in advising, and we are involved in several projects and investments already, having to do with tokenization of real estate especially. So, happy to talk. Thank you for the invitation. Always nice to see you, Kyle, and everyone on the LaToken VCTV team.
Absolutely. Real estate, calling out a great use case. We've seen a lot of action around tokenization early in the blockchain landscape, and we're going to talk about that and much, much more. Matthew, welcome back as well. A little intro, a little background.
Yes, great to be here, Kyle. As always, I'm Matthew Le Merle. I'm based in Silicon Valley. We are the leading blockchain venture fund of funds, blockchain co-investors and co-investment program investors in 25 blockchain VCs globally and about 300 blockchain projects and companies, including 30 or so unicorns. We do have an early stage token fund, a Cayman vehicle, and that may be more relevant when we come today to talk about tokenization and tokens. And I will just mention too that I'm chairman of Securitize for Europe, which is the US's leading tokenization platform. So I think that's part of the reason why Kyle asked me to be in this panel. And with that, I'll hand back to Kyle.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Calling it out just right. Absolute pleasure. Nicola, welcome to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Nicola Massella. I'm the legal and compliance manager at Stone Partners. We are a Swiss-based firm in the crypto and blockchain space. We offer services in corporate finance, legal consulting, marketing, and digital transformation. We mainly assist crypto asset service providers or DeFi protocols, projects that want to launch their own token, and so on. And of course, many tokenization initiatives from real estate to art tokenization.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Gary Fowler, welcome back, joining us from the wonderful living room with the grandest of grand pianos. A little intro.
That's great. It's great to be here, Kyle. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 startups, been involved in 2 unicorns. So I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company. I'm the CEO, co-founder, president of GSD Venture Studios. And we've been working a lot with tokenization, with the tokenization of data, with tokenization of customer loyalty. In fact, I have a series of articles now coming out in Forbes, and working on a very large project and trying to tie this all together. You know, as a Germans say, Gestalt is some of the parts equal the whole, and I believe we have an opportunity now to do something very interesting. So stay tuned.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much again for joining today. We will have a startup that will be presenting with us a little later in the second half of today's show, but let's jump right into today's topic. I mean, each of you have been either building, investing, or monitoring this industry in some way, shape, or form, and it is pretty impactful. We're starting to see more activity now here in 2021 in the second half than we were previously in the industry. And Matthew, why don't you kick us off? I mean, you've been in this industry, you've been investing in it, you have both a tokenized fund, you're also in the board or have been an investor of some of the companies building in the space. Where are we in terms of what tokenization was? Real estate was one of those initial use cases to where we are today, and maybe where you see it going from here.
Yes. So thank you, Carl. So let's as always, let's begin with the reality that most of the world's assets are still paper-based, and the monies that we use are rather clunky. A few of them have been sort of passed through digitization version 1, but even they are not really native digital monies or commodities. And as I say, real estate, public, private equities, funds are mostly still paper-based. So all of that's going to be digitalized. It will be digitalized, and it's just a matter of time. And the world is now working on that. Well, that's sort of a complicated challenge because all of the infrastructure, the banking infrastructure, the payment infrastructure, the stock exchanges and the trading floors, all of that has to be upgraded as well for us to move into a world of native digital monies and assets, which is the direction we're going to end up in. We are at the stage right now where we have tokenized monies and tokenized assets that are possible and work, but most financial institutions can't cope with them. And so the number of digital wallets is few, and the ones that do exist are becoming valued enormously highly. So that's the Coinbases, the Krakens, obviously it's the Circles and the Bacts. And if it wasn't just for those, you saw FTX just raised $1 billion at a very high valuation. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is a great time to be entering because we've got to build out global infrastructure. A lot of companies will play. Just to give you a sense, and then I'll stop, there's 10,000 banks in the world. Almost all of those banks do not have a digital wallet, and they all need to have one. So imagine, their demand for digital wallet providers, digital exchange providers, settlement systems, transfer agents, as well as the underlying tokenizers is going to be enormous. So we feel like this is one of the biggest investment themes of today. Back to you, Carl.
Thank you, Matthew. I couldn't agree more, and I'm seeing shaking heads, in agreement around the table right now. And even more so, we saw, a lot of funding recently with the fringe around that, right? So from the wallets and exchanges, as you mentioned, with FTX, we also saw a few fundraising announcements, including today's from Magic around authentication I think they raised about $27 million in a round today. We saw some others earlier this week. So you're calling it out right. I mean, the infrastructure, this is the time. And if you're not paying attention, tune into Matthew, myself, Gary, Nicola, Frederico, Julio. We're all here sharing the stories of what's happening in this industry as well. And Matthew, thank you. And Nicola, I want to come to you. I mean, you're investing in the DeFi space and looking at tokenization and have been for some time. Playing off of what Matthew just said, I mean, how are you seeing the world of tokenization evolve, maybe in leaning into that native digital monies and assets area that we're moving to, or future we're moving to, per Matthew?
Sure. Just a clarification in the first place. So I mostly do legal consulting. We do legal consulting also for investors, but we are not direct investors. We are a service firm. But apart from that, so I've seen actually a quite deep evolution of tokenization projects. In particular, nowadays, I think that the tokenization of shares, as is the topic of this event, is something that is getting more and more popular. As it was said before, the problem of this is the infrastructure of shares. So if I tokenize the share of my company, but then there is not a trading venue in which those shares can be traded, there is no point of doing so. Indeed, the point right now is that it's not even a competition of companies, it's a competition of jurisdiction for the jurisdiction that creates the best framework for this to happen. And Switzerland is actually doing so. From the 1st of August, it will be possible to require in Switzerland a DLT trading venue license. So basically a license to operate a trading venue based on DLT technology in which you can list tokenized shares. For instance, the Swiss Stock Exchange already planned to apply for that. And so Switzerland will be probably one of the first countries to have regulated security token exchanges.
So I want to pause from my main question and go down that for just a second. And Julio, I'm going to come to you in just one moment. So as you bring that up, Nicola, I want to lean into some news we had late last week around Binance. So Binance opened up this product or this feature set to do tokenized stocks, where you could purchase fractions or tokenized versions of key companies like Tesla, Microsoft, and Apple. Coinbase was one as well, and a few others. And they actually pulled that back. It was only live for about 2 months. Now, let's set the company aside, but look at the feature itself. Is this something we're ready for, or is this something we're actually not yet planned for, and is something we're maybe going to come to in the future? Maybe why is that kind of pulling back? So, Nicola, if you have any comments, and then Matthew, I see you're shaking your head, and hopefully I'll come to you next.
Could be, but so Binance was offering the users the possibility to buy Tesla shares or other kind of shares that are already listed on the market, but to buy them through crypto assets. I don't really see the point in this, to be honest. I mean, you can create your own account on eToro or whatever and do the same. I see really the point in the fact of creating an alternative stock exchange that is only based on DLT technology, and in which companies can list their own shares in the form of security tokens. And this eliminates a lot of intermediaries, basically, because in order to be listed on this market, you don't need to pass from an IPO in the true sense of the word, so through banks and the allocation of the initial shares. You can basically do what a big ICOs does or equity crowdfunding does. So address the public in the first place.
That's a good point. And speaking of banks, before Matthew, you jump in here, I believe we just had breaking news, trying to find it real quick, but JP Morgan will now be giving its retail wealth clients access to crypto funds. So speaking of banks, and we also had a Bank of America announce something similar as well, Nicola, on your points. But Matthew, any comments further around this idea of tokenized stocks?
Yes, so it's a complicated and it's a segmented conversation. I don't quite agree with Nicola, but I agree with half of what he said. So this is the reality. If you have a digital wallet, you actually want to buy and sell everything within that wallet in real time. And if you look at WePay or Alipay, they have a breadth of products in the same wallet. So you can, instantaneously trade from a crypto asset to a fiat currency to a private investment to a public investment. You can lend, you can borrow, all instantaneously within the same wallet. And that's actually what digital natives want. They don't want to have to move their money back and forth between different accounts, especially since we tend to get charged a lot. And there's a lot of spreads, bid-ask spreads that we get exposed to. We lose our money when we have to go between institutions. So if you look at something like Uphold is a good example, and we're investors in Uphold, but Uphold is a good example where there are many products when Abra, as an example, first put up a few public equities, the number one trade on their platform for a while was Tesla. So now just finishing up on Binance, the challenge is securities are regulated and there are rules about who you can offer them to and how. And Binance is very good at technology, but they should and need to worry a little bit more about jurisdictional rules and regulations around securities. And that's why they had to pull it down. I mean, they're under a lot of pressure, as we know, in the UK, US, and Asia. And Binance wants to be one of the winning players of the future, but they have to make sure they don't stumble right now. And their fractional public tokenized securities unfortunately broke some rules. And that's why they pulled them down very quickly. Carl.
Thank you, Matthew. Julio.
Well, on the issue of tokenizing securities, I agree that there's no point in it, because the whole point of tokenization, right? The one reason why everybody wants tokenization is liquidity. And so it's applicable for things that don't have liquidity, but you would like to give them liquidity. Or maybe disintermediation, right? With products that have too many intermediaries and you want to disintermediate. That would be another philosophical reason why tokenization would be desired. And there are many things in the economy that don't have liquidity that you want to give liquidity to, more than stocks, which are already liquid, or any kind of securities. I think the idea there is simply to attract more of the money that gets excited with things like Tesla, right? I think the market knows that there are many Tesla enthusiasts that will do whatever Elon Musk tells them to do. And so maybe we can sell them something and make some money out of, that type of hunger for product that exists in certain sectors of society, but that's nowhere near, the large sectors that you need to launch a whole new industry. However, real estate, as we alluded to here before, is something that suffers from liquidity. It's very difficult to sell a house or a building or a piece of land. But there are many people who would like to be participants in investments that have to do with real estate because in part of it, they see it every day. We are working with a company in Colombia right now, which already has a platform where investors can, put money to work in specific real estate projects that they can see online. They belong to this company. They go online, they see a portfolio of projects, and they can put as little as $300 to work into a specific project. And then they're going to get a proportional claim to the cash flow that derives from those properties or the eventual sale or completion of a project. That's interesting because people cannot do that. The only way to really participate in real estate is to maybe be a bank or be a large investor. But in a time when if people put their money in a savings account, they get no money, right? Interest in savings are nothing everywhere in the world, with few exceptions. You'll be lucky if you get 1% return on savings. You can't even beat inflation with a traditional savings account anymore, especially these days with inflation going up. But if you can buy a piece of the building next door or the hotel, or any other property, that's very valuable. Now, I agree that a lot of work has to be done still, that financial institutions are not ready for it, that regulators are looking all over to see how they can protect the public. and that the people running the tokenization are not necessarily the people who understand the whole point of regulation, because they tend to be, you know, libertarian free market types who kind of abhor the whole idea of regulation. So they don't even have the right mindset to adapt to a regulatory environment that tends to be quite strict in matters of finance. However, I can tell you of an example we're working on right now. We are tokenizing an island in the Bahamas. You know, it's everybody knows the Bahamas. It's a good economy. There's rule of law and security there in real estate. And wouldn't most people like to own a piece of an island in the Bahamas, which already has some income producing properties in it? You know, that's an interesting concept, and hopefully we're going to bring it to fruition in a few months. But that's something which has no liquidity in the current world, but all of a sudden could have, you know, overnight liquidity for, you know, thousands of people who, whether they just have a few dollars they want to put to work, or they want to be serious about owning a lot of those tokens and owning a real piece of an island in the Bahamas. And to take the island public wouldn't make sense. I mean, you could also take people public through stock and all of that, but it's just not as it's not as global.
Well, and Julio, I'm just going to interject real quick. I mean, you're bringing up another good point. People, we've seen that as a new trend as well. The tokenization of an individual and an individual's time as well. And Matthew, we've spoken about this before. You know, the idea of how tokenization also creates this real time, you know, 24/7 marketplace or opportunity of swapping as well. Not necessarily just liquidity, but also a great point further as well. And Matthew, just a quick comment, and Julio, I'm going to come back to you. But Gary, I see you've unmuted. I want to get to everybody. So Matthew, any further thoughts on Julio's example?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm bursting to talk because Julio, that was not right. I mean, the London Stock Exchange, 6 in Switzerland, the New York Stock Exchange, the Australian Stock Exchange, the Japanese Stock Exchange. I've spoken to them all recently, and they are all putting in place efforts to create digital tokenized exchanges. And the reason is that fundamental issues like settlement times and the implications on counterparty risk are challenges for them that they have to solve. They want more efficient, lower cost, more rapid platforms that eliminate counterparty risk, because counterparty risk is a result of long settlement times, and their regulators want real-time compliance. And today, if you're IBM, you don't even know who owns your stock, and you can't communicate to them because there's layers of proxies. And IBM wants to speak directly to its holders, and the compliance authorities want to know in real time if there are issues. Right now, they do forensic evaluations, and it takes 3 months for them to figure out what happened at Robinhood with, with GameStop. It's all rear view mirror compliance. So anyhow, my point is, and I'll hand back, Carl, I know I'm taking up too much time, but my point is they all agree we're moving into a world of tokenized digital assets. And if they think so, believe me, it's true. This is not a libertarian cause. This is mainstream financial services. Morgan Stanley was just the lead investor in Securitized, along with Santander, Nomura, Mitsui, and there's a good reason for it. Back to you, Carl.
Well, and I'll call out too yesterday, Bank of BNY Mellon and State Street back in April talked about doing a partnership together around some type of trading mystery project. 3 months later, here we are, and they now have launched with 4 other banks a trading platform, a trading platform for tokenization and cryptocurrency. We've seen this as well from JP Morgan's Onyx division, but JP Morgan proper with Tessimac and MAS, so the Monetary Authority of Singapore as well. So I think we're all bringing up the same points, and there's so much activity, and the financial institutions, to Matthew's point, are in this in a deep way and more public as the days seem to go on. Gary, I've left you and Frederico quiet for just a moment. So Gary, any thoughts on all of this that we're talking about, but more importantly, this real-time environment that Matthew and Julio were just discussing, and then Frederico, I'll come to you next as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of things. It's great that Matthew says that the exchanges are now on board, because part of the challenge, and I've made some serious investments in some tokenization opportunities, and it's been the authorities. So you go back to the rules about knowing your investor and qualified investors and that kind of thing. So this is very, very encouraging. But this is back to what we've talked about before, Kyle. It's really the democratization of opportunity, and so everybody can partake in this digital transformation that we're going through. On this side is about creating efficiencies and effectiveness. Talking about knowing your customer. It's always about who your customer is. This will now give us an opportunity to know them better. So it's encouraging to hear. I mean, we're deeply involved. Some of my investment partners are deeply involved in tokenization in all kinds of ways. So from I'm looking at customer loyalty. In fact, I've just finished my article for Forbes on tokenization, customer loyalty, and creating this 360 view ecosystem. So it's encouraging, it's exciting, but we've still got a way to go, because on the other side of it, you've got the countries that are a little bit resistant because they don't want to lose control, and let's see what happens.
You're right. We are going to see what happens. This market is moving quick and fast. As I mentioned, we went from securities and our assets. So as Matthew kind of kicked us off, right, we went from paper assets into digital. We're in that process of that infrastructure upgrade. We're looking at bringing money into that digital form, as we've talked yesterday on VCTV about digital currencies, digital dollars, central bank digital currencies, and now the tokenization of everything, including ourselves, intellectual property. I mean, real estate. We've just begun to touch the surface here as well. And Frederico, I want to make sure you get some thoughts in here, and then I've got about 2 more questions, and we'll come to wrap. But Frederico, to you, any thoughts on where all of this is going from a tokenization perspective?
Well, first of all, I think it's inevitable. This move is going to happen, whether we like it or not. Your first question is about where we were, where we are, and where we are going. And I think a couple of years ago, when 2017, 18, when crypto boom happened, everybody had a vision and almost a dream about securities or tokenizations of everything. Then now we are in a moment when reality strikes. So it's not only about the opportunity, but trying to make things really happen. And to make things really happen is not only about technology, it's well beyond that. Blockchain is a reality. You can tokenize anything using smart contracts, etc. But now you have other issues. You need to really go deeper into regulations and regulatory bodies. You really need to think about jurisdiction and stuff like that to make things really happen. And I agree that liquidity is important. It's a strong driver, because liquidity is you just brings to the market something that was not there, but for sure not the only one, maybe not the most important, because as any revolution, we're talking about friction. When you can cut on intermediaries, you are saving time. Time is money, so this happens all the time during our history as a civilization, and it's not different. So we are going from what we had, like when you have music in LP, in discos, then CDs. Now you digitize that. Once it's digitized, you can trade, you can send, you can share who owns what, and this can be done in real time. So that's what tokenization is about for me. is once you have everything digitized, you can have a lot of new things to be done. Not only bring some real estate that can now be, I can own a share of a real estate, I don't know, but everything being online, you have things on the same platform. So you have cash and you have securities and you have everything else in the same platform. This can be traded instantly. This is a revolution by itself. You can create new products by composing things that are already there. And this is beyond what we can think right now, right? When you have a security, let's say the island from Julio, this island is securitized. Now I have a share. This share can be sold, and I can use that to have to lend, to borrow, and create a derivative. So the last part, where we are going to, that's beyond our imagination, I think. And I think we are about at least 4 or 5 years to have all these jurisdiction, regulation, everything really in place, because despite all the hype, right now we don't have it. There are very few players that can do, and that's because of regulations, because it's not enough to have the technology. You need a license from United States. And if you're going to operate in Europe, you have a different license. And in Japan, a different license. So all this is very complex, and I don't see it happening in less than 4 years' time. But the potential is wide. So I agree when someone said, this is the time to invest. Yes, because things are already clear what can be done in the future, but it's not done yet.
It's not done yet, and we are seeing the beginnings of it. We haven't even talked about the terms of terms in this industry, which is non-fungible tokens and NFTs, and how that plays a role into the future of tokenization, which we're going to come back to in just a moment, because there is a good comment that was just made by Julio, and I will give credit to that, is the idea that David Bowie had started the early idea of tokenizations oneself with his bond offering back in the 80s, if I'm correct. I could be off on that, but I believe it was right around that time. So there's a lot of action that has happened over the decades, and now we're coming to where technology has caught up in certain respects and maybe surpassing, and now industry is in that same vein as well. But I do want to switch real quick to today's topic: equities. Tokenization of equities. We're talking about investing in companies, seeing those tokens in return. Matthew, you've started a tokenized fund, as you mentioned in the beginning. Talk to us a little bit about what that process was like and why that was important for you and your entire investor base to look at that as a new type of fund to start investing and then deploying out of. And I'll come around on everyone's thoughts around that afterwards.
Yeah, so Carl, the early stage token fund we're launching this summer is actually about protocol, NFT, and DeFi tokens. So that's a fund that invests in things like Filecoin, Polkadot, or Akala, Moonbeam, Swarm in their early stages. So that's what I meant. And so sorry, that isn't actually this answer. But we were involved at Blockchain Capital in the launch of BCAP, which was probably the world's first tokenized fund, along with Spice. And I would say, I would come back to the earlier comments, which is this really is driven by users and distribution platforms. So if you're a digital native and if you've got a digital wallet, you want your assets to flow into that wallet. And old-fashioned paper-based, or even today's private and public equities, they can't flow into a digital wallet. So you can't trade them in a digital wallet. And that's really the problem we're trying to solve. In the future, all people will have digital wallets, and they will do their banking, their payments, their investing, their insurance through their digital wallet. And so if we don't tokenize the instruments, which includes the private equities and the public equities, they can't flow into the digital wallets. So it's really as simple as that. So there is some inevitability about this. I do agree with the other panelists' comments that for most people in the world, there are pretty good alternative ways of buying public equities. But don't even get confused by that. For many people in the world, they can't buy public equities. Right? And I gave you the South African example, but that's just one of many. Many people in the world can't buy IBM or Tesla or Amazon stock. And today, through the tokenization of those products, we're beginning to make those available through other platforms that they may have access to. So is this a sprint? No. This is heavy lifting. It's going to take quite a while. And it's not the first domino to fall. You know, there are easier things to buy and sell, like crypto tokens or protocol tokens. These things, DeFi tokens, those are already available, easy to buy and trade, subject to jurisdictional restrictions. But because this is probably my last comment, I know, let me just say this is inevitable. So if anyone on this panel or anyone listening thinks this may not happen, it will happen. It is going to happen. The world's governments, the world's exchanges, the big banks, the big asset managers, the crypto community, the DeFi community, we all are going to want to tokenize everything, and we are going to do it. It is going to happen. And
the people. I'll add that last category in there as well. And Matthew is absolutely right. This is inevitable. And I want to bring out one key thing. We continue to talk about all these different pieces for the audience. We're talking about all these different pieces of the puzzle. Infrastructure is one area we're heavily focused on. And you notice that with Matthew, Julio, Frederico, Gary, everyone's mentioning this, wallets. That wallet is the beginning of the experience. Being able to hold, store, trade everything. That wallet is going to be the key, the gateway to all of this world that we're talking about. So entrepreneurs listening, key term here, but the fringe, everything around that wallet experience, everything that goes into the experience of buying, selling, etc., that we've been talking about, to then the application. There are many pieces within that stack and within those building blocks. So entrepreneurs, I hope you're taking note as well, audience. Gary, tokenization of everything, equities. What are you looking at? Are you seeing this as something that you're looking at from an investor perspective as well? And non-fungible tokens, NFTs, will bring into this conversation as well, as they held a unique piece. Frederico, Julio, I'll come to you next, and then we'll come for quick closing thoughts. Oh, Gary, I think you might be on mute there. One day we'll tokenize muting.
Yeah. So, the thing that I'm looking at is data, Kyle. I mean, the tokenization of data. I mean, think about the way we use Google today. We use Gmail. Our data is not ours. So in terms of tokenizing that data, in terms of the amount of time you spend, because it's all about time, in terms of customer loyalty. So it's really an exploration about where does social media go? What are the next levels of that? And how do you really own what is yours? So what I'm really interested in exploring now, and what I'm writing about, is the tokenization, as you said, everything, but really the tokenization as applied to social media. I don't believe the next level of a Google, the next level of Facebook, instead of we use it and it's free today. We use LinkedIn and it's free today for the most part. But in reality, you're selling your data. You're selling that experience to everybody. It's not just Facebook, it's everybody. And we're worried about security and privacy, and we don't own what we have. So we have these discussions, and then cybersecurity on top of that. Who's going to get in and access what you have and use it nefariously? I saw yesterday that and it was interesting, a phone they locked down through a Catholic priest, was a Monsignor, got in trouble because of location, and his data was sold on his phone. And I'm concerned about it. And I think we own that data, and we should be able to sell it, based on the value that it pertains to whatever site that you're working with. So what I'm looking at is the next level. The next level of Facebook is going to be who owns the data. And how do we take that data and how do we get the most amount of value out of it? So and then also customer loyalty. How do we work that into the equation? How do we turn that into the retail experience? How is it really valued? and how do we trade that? So that's literally my article coming out next week is on that. So I'm finishing up right now because I'm really it's compelling. We talk about, like I say, we use all these. We use the LinkedIn and Facebooks of the world, all these different sites, and we're sharing our data. We're not getting any value back out of it.
And that's a good point, because one of the things we hadn't talked about is the data behind the idea of behind the tokens themselves, that tokenization. When we do tokenize something,
exactly,
like NFTs, a non-fungible token, the data, the metadata, for those listening, the metadata behind non-fungible token. And we're not just talking about the arts and the collectible moments that are out there right now. We're talking about anything that gets turned into an NFT, any piece of content, any person, anything that does go to a tokenized process. The data behind that is quite enriched, and we haven't yet thought about or discussed, I should say, the tools and the platforms that will be used around that. But I'm going to save that for another discussion, because we'll go down, we'll be here for another 2 hours, and I want to be sensitive of everyone's time today. So Frederico, quick closing thoughts on the idea and the world of tokenization. Where can you be found? And I think we're going to have a quick pitch from NFT Swaps as well. We're just checking on some connection issues. But Frederico, closing thoughts on the world of tokenization, and where can everyone find you? Frederico. I've gotten two mute tokens so far. Go ahead.
Put in your wallet, forget, and look at 10 years from now, you will be rich. So I can be reached by LinkedIn. It's Frederico Mesquita, or our website is leaseglobal.net. Right now, we are looking, and I'm looking personally at higher levels. I believe there are a lot of the pieces of the puzzle are being worked very well. So there's a lot of initiatives in sovereign self-identity. So everybody will have its own identity and its own wallet. All these little pieces of the puzzle are being worked very well. So we are trying to look at a higher level of abstraction, how things are going to move between traditional and all these new features, decentralized finance, tokenization of everything, banks and investors. So we are trying to being a player in the middle of everything. And I believe, as I said, it is inevitable. The pieces are in place, and everybody will sooner or later be part of the system. This is and the opportunities for everyone, entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of pieces still to be done, investors, because a lot of places to put your money on.
Absolutely. Identity is the next topic we're going to talk about here on VCTV. Thank you, Frederico. Nicola, I know you're having some connection issues, so super quick closing thought, and where can everyone find you in case we lose you?
Yeah, I hope you hear me fine. What I would say is just that the future, in my opinion, is more close than you think. In my opinion, in Switzerland, the security token exchanges will be live quite soon. And I hope also in other jurisdictions as well in the world. I really agree with the vision of Matthew. I do believe in the tokenization of assets in the future. Just to come back from the beginning, I just do not see the tokenization of shares that happens in some exchanges like Binance as a good example of this new economy. I want true tokenization. I want a token that legally represents a share of a company, not a derivative.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicola. In case we lose you, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you back here soon, but hope you can stay for just a little bit longer with us. Gary, closing thoughts, where can you be found as well? And then Julio, Matthew, and we'll have NFT Swaps give us a short pitch at the end here as well. But Gary first. 3 mute tokens. I am doing well today.
I'm going to get you sometime too, Kyle. You already owe me some. Anyhow, this is really the democratization opportunity. It's very exciting. It's a very exciting time. And I think that, what we got to do is we got to look at how we apply these and how it's going to really revolutionize our media, how it's going to really revolutionize customer loyalty, the banking system, how the laws are going to keep up with it. It's just an incredible, fascinating time. And we're going to see over the last 18 months during the pandemic have really helped with this digital transformation. Now the situation is we started to move in the direction, and how much momentum are we going to keep up? Based on what Matthew said, I'm encouraged and excited. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can reach me. I'm all over the place. I'm on iHeartRadio now, and we have a digital show that airs every week on Saturday night. I'd be happy to check it out. It's a New York City-based radio station. And by the way, next week I have the CEO of 5 to 9 on my show. They just sold for $14.7 billion. The original founder, CEO. So check it out.
Awesome. Hopefully we'll get that tokenized soon as well, so we can tune in to that show. Julio, to you, quick closing thoughts. Where can you be found?
No token for you. You can find me through our website, nybaycapital.com. It's the easiest. Look, as closing thoughts, this is very exciting, and I want to make a recommendation to everybody. It might seem retro and silly, but I enjoy watching that, and you should too. It's an episode of the Flintstones when the Flintstones meet the Jetsons. I think the audience here is familiar a little bit with these characters, but you know, the Flintstones are Stone Age people. They travel to the future in a kind of a meta episode where they meet the Jetsons, which is all about the future. And the Flintstones are very excited to see that there is no more money in the future. Everything is done pretty much digitally. It was quite a futuristic episode. So watch it, and then maybe you'll begin to sample how it'll feel when all of this inevitability that we've been discussing today happens.
Great reference, Julio. Absolutely. And Matthew, close us out with your closing thoughts and where you can be found, and then NFT Swamps will give us a quick pitch, and we'll head out for the day. But Matthew, to you.
Well, I think this panel demonstrated just how complicated and nuanced and segmented the conversation is. And you shouldn't be surprised. We're talking about all the world's assets, and the assets come in different categories. And we're tokenizing all of them, but we quickly talked about public equities, private equities, but there's also real estate. Then there's collectibles and fine arts, which are NFTs. So there's asset-backed securities of other descriptions. So it's a very nuanced conversation. And one of the things we did, and it's occurring to me, it might be helpful, is we did record a webinar called Investing in Early Stage Tokens. You can find it at blockchaincoinvestors.com. You can also find it on YouTube. And all we try and do in that webinar is to break down tokens into some simple and easy to understand different categories. And the reason I say this is because I think you saw on our panel that some of us, it's like the elephant and the four blind men. They have completely different points of view on what we're talking about, depending upon which part of the elephant they're touching. And that's true in tokens. Tokens come in all shapes and varieties and formats. They are just software, and you have to really understand what type of token you're talking about in order to figure out its uses, its benefits, its disadvantages, and so on. And so with that, Kyle, we're always at blockchaincoinvestors.com, and that webinar may be helpful to some people.
Couldn't agree more. Did get a chance to tune in myself, and would highly recommend it to all those who have a chance to tune in. And all, thank you very much. We're going to jump into NFT Swamps real quick. I want to make sure the team is there. He's got a quick pitch for us. We'll only have a few minutes, so we'll have to have this as a little accelerated version, but I'm going to turn it over to the founder of NFT Swamps to give us a little bit of a preview of what he and his team have put together. The floor is yours. You've got about 3 minutes, and we'll go from there.
All right. So good evening. This is Gideon Ugunshola. I am a co-founder at NFT Swaps, and today is the continuation pitch from the last time, and I'm going to be talking about the NFT spot. So let me quickly go through this. So, what are NFTs? They are non-divisible assets. They are very useful, and they are social contracts from a surrounding creator to its community. And the problem we are trying to solve with the NFT spots and NFT swaps is poor NFT adoption. So the causes, there's a current problem. NFTs aren't really used. No, there's a poor NFT adoption, and the causes, there's a problem in the liquidity and in the pricing domain. Currently we only have situations where if you buy an NFTs, to sell it you need to auction it out and the rest. So you need to auction it out and wait for auction bids on it, right? So what solution are we offering? We're offering two platforms basically: NFT swaps, which is a which is an NFT to fungible DEX, allows users swap NFTs to fungible equivalents, hence enabling the fractionalization of those NFTs. And then we have the NFT Spot, which is a platform to mint, launch, and discover NFTs, basically. So how the NFT Spot works as an NFT launchpad. John Doe, a creative that has just learned about NFTs and with no knowledge on how to create NFTs, John Doe creates a content and uploads on the NFT Spot to mint an NFT collection. John Doe launches an NFT drop on the NFT Spot, which is passed as a live drop if approved by the community. So John Doe is able to promote his NFTs to his fans while raising liquidity simultaneously for those NFTs. So in turn, John Doe NFT holders can immediately sell on a DEX, that is an automated market maker, through NFT swaps seamlessly without having to wait for an auction bid. So the NFT spot as a spotlight the Spotlight is a competition platform that exposes NFT artists by aiding them interact with their content with a prospective community. And okay, we have Spot token name, Spot token theta spot, token type. It's an RFI token, reflect. We have maximum supply of 21 million, and there's 10% fee on all transactions, 50% to PancakeSwap liquidity, and 50% is auto distributed. So Spot as a token utility, you need to hold 500 Spot tokens to join the Discord voting club chat room. And Spot token utility, Spot as a reflect token, there's 10% of all transaction, 50% to PancakeSwap, and 50% auto distributed to spot holders. We also have spot taking. Spot stakers are guaranteed BNB allocation in early seed round of an NFT spot. On contributing the BNB allocation, key NFT is minted. So key as an incentive, right? There are 4 staking tiers. We have the 5,000 tier and the 5,000 spots tier, the 10,000 spots tier, 15,000 spot tier, and the 20,000 spot tier. Then we have this undervalued NFT market. The current NFT dominance is 1% versus the global crypto market. So we could touch down on competitors. We have NFTX, which is the US, which is the most valued in terms of market cap. We have NFT20, we have Unique.ly and Bondly. And so talking about platform fee and revenue distribution, there is the 10% on all transactions, whether it is a buy or sell, right? And 50% goes to liquidity, 50% to spot token holders. So holding spots, you would immediately get access to more spot tokens. and right, there's also a 0.5. Also, we charge 0.5% of listed NFT drop native derivative token. We shared it according to 40% to voting club chat room, 30% to swap holders, and 10% to team. And also, there's also a 10% platform fee, right? And 10% is used for a periodic buyback and bond.
So we're just coming up on the
right?
last few seconds here. So just a quick shout out. Yep, right there. That last slide, that contact us. Where can everyone find out a little bit more about NFT swaps as we come to close here as well?
Yeah, so you could check out the website, thenftspot.io, right, to contact us through the support or join our Telegram channel. So you could reach out to me on LinkedIn and on Telegram at JuniorOX. Right. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much again for sharing your thoughts and insights today. And thank you, NFT Swaps, for the presentation as well. Make sure everyone who's tuning in checks out the company as well. And please do reach out to each and every one of us on the panel today. We'd love to hear from you. Remember to add context where you heard us, where you met us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about as well. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Big thank you to the LaToken team, to Maria and Hasmik for making today's episode possible. We'll be back here after a short little break with a little bit more VCTV. Everyone have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.